Hi, I'm Josh.
I'm Josh.
I'm Mass.
And I am neither Josh nor Mass, but together we are
Joshing around in air.
Hey, you know what? That actually went quite well.
I can do
Could
it.
have gone a lot worse.
Yeah.
So we've got a time zone of, what, we got 8 hours? 5 hours?
Yeah, you have
7 hours?
You have me for 8 hours, and it'll cost you 36 Canadian per every 8 hours.
Okay. Is that imperial or metric?
No, I come from the Commonwealth. What is the Queen? We asked politely for our independence, and she was like, "Yeah, you can have it." And so,
but we just want to stay on your money. That's all.
The metric system, but in the imperial system, has bled over in a couple spots. Like we don't say our height in metric; we say it in feet. We don't give our weight in metric or kilograms. We say it in pounds. But if someone says, how far away is that? We'll be like, we'll give it in metric, or what we'll actually do is we'll tell you how many hours it's going to take.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. It's a bit like using the speed of sound to describe distance in space, right? Like,
yeah. It's like we got one road, and if you want to go from one place to the other, they're like, how far is that? You tell them it's 10 hours. You're all going the same speed.
So yeah, we don't do kilometers or miles, just hours.
That's how this works.
Mass, why don't you tell us what lovely beverage you've got while Sam gets us set up with ours? That's all right.
I have Alexander Keefe's India Pale Ale. We brew this in...
Oh, an IPA.
No, they're telling me about the hops. Where is this even brewed? I don't know. Nope, Pride in Nova Scotia. Hey, it's Canadian. Shit. I just like it. It's 5%. I don't know. What else do you want? Do you want the barcode on this as well?
Yeah, man. Whatever you got. That's great. Have you had this before?
Oh, this is kind of my drink of choice. Like if it's in a bar and they're like, "Hey, what do you want to drink?" and I'm like, "You got a Keefe's," and then they usually tell me no, and then they tell me, "What else you want?" I'm like, "Estella's."
Nice. Okay.
Well, to complement that, we have another beer. It is summertime, so they say. It's not quite as sunny as it could be otherwise, but it is a lager called Via Roma. And it was interesting. I was listening back to the episode where we had Jamie talking about extremely expensive pints of beer in London. And I was in my local corner shop, and there was a 4-pack of this Italian-looking lager for 50 pence a can, which is pretty cheap, to the point that I thought, beer is normally more expensive in the corner shop than in a supermarket. 50p per can. There must be something wrong with it, but looked like a normal beer. This one is 4.5%, a lager. And then when I got it home, I read the description and realized, oh, that'll be it. So La Lupa, the she-wolf, protected Romulus. Without her, he wouldn't have founded Rome, the eternal city, where ancient streets nurture fresh ideas like this refreshing lager. So far, so good. Infused with a subtle hint of Italian orange. Oh, that'll be it. Nobody goes and orders an orange-infused lager, do they? But let's...
well, no, it's got all this Italian stuff, but it's a Belgian beer.
Is it? Yeah.
It's a bit... I think it's going to be a bit like... Have you guys ever had Blue Moon?
No.
Blue Moon's like it's like a Belgian kind of, I think it's a white lager, but that you have it served with a slice of orange in it. Spoons now sell it. I thought it's a fairly well-known one.
It's probably about 50p in spoons, isn't it?
So
what's the conversion rate on that anyway? Like, what is 50p? Because is that your cents, or because isn't quid your dollar?
Well, actually, your cents is our pence. But, we'll...
I think, we speak Canadian in this country as well,
Yeah. Completely fluently.
I'm glad.
What is Canada? Is it 2 to 1? Dollars to our pounds?
No, I think you're 175 is our dollars to pounds.
So this is about... Oh, I've got a...
you're
got
the
maths
guy.
in my head, like 80 cents.
That's cheap.
Yeah, real cheap.
I heard your housing prices
drinking
are terrible, but man, I'll go there for the beer.
So,
Right.
So the she-wolf of Rome.
To the she-wolf of Rome. Cheers, Mass.
Yeah, cheers.
Yep, I already love it.
It's great.
I got 4 Nova Scotias in a boot, so hopefully I don't spill that on myself.
I'm just looking forward to slowly your words slurring more and more as this podcast goes on.
Well, I heard you record a bunch in one day, and I bought a box of stuff, and I can just always refill the boot.
Mate, that's the joy of the boot.
Yeah.
So
It never
what did you
runs
say?
out.
It held 4 pints in the boot?
It holds 4 beer.
4 beer.
So this
Wow.
is 355 milliliters times 4.
155.
355. So it's about like 1.4
Oh,
litres.
yeah, 1/420. So almost a liter and a half of the
3
beer.
pints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Round about 3 pints. Just like a stein and a half.
Well, this beer is reminding me a lot of my early days of when I first started drinking, because it tastes like a shandy, which for our non-UK listeners and guest is basically half beer, half lemonade, or some sort of ratio of the two. And it's just like, I mean, you like it because it's got lemonade in it, and you basically just tolerate the beer, and that's how it goes. And this is reminding me of that experience, so I'm very grateful.
Well, in a lot of other countries, they call it a radler.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, we call it shandy here, but yeah, pretty much like Germany, America, Australia, they all call it radler. And it's quite big there, but they often put nice lemonade with it. And it's a drink that even adults enjoy.
A Radler I was surprised that was good, but I didn't think was going to be good, was a grapefruit Radler.
Oh, they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, I didn't. I was like, okay, I got lemon, I got probably not lime. die to the sour content. But I grabbed a grapefruit and was like, is this any good? And I'm like, holy shit, this is great. We have a raspberry non-such locally that it's made. And it's like a raspberry beer. It's super sweet. That's kind of like one of my go-tos when it's served at bars as well. But a lot of like non-local places, like when I travel, don't have it. So got the keeps.
All right, I've got a listener question for us. Mass, you up for joining us for that?
Yeah.
Great. Hi guys, love the podcast. Keep up the great work. I've played plenty of game systems competitively over the last 20 years or so, and have accepted that being based in Cornwall means I will have to travel. Do others regularly travel large distances for one-day events? All the best, Matt, your 9th biggest fan.
Oh.
Seems you've got competition for 9th.
I mean,
Between
20
him and
years
Scott.
of experience, that's more than us combined. We should be asking him the questions, really.
That is true.
But talking about travelling long distances, I mean, Mass, in your example of how you measure distances, you casually suggested without even flinching that you would travel for 10 hours along a road, which I think from our position would take us to a different continent.
Oh, how about we say 13 hours, good sir? I'll have you know.
How far have you
I traveled
travelled for a
13
game?
hours for a one-day event and stayed in a hotel downtown where I couldn't park my truck properly and had to go find paid parking throughout the night.
Oh, wow.
Man.
But that's what it takes at times if you want to participate in an event.
Yeah.
I live in the middle of Canada. There is literally my one city of 750,000 people, and then the next closest city that plays Conquest is 9 hours away.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Like, I
felt-
drove 13, 14-ish hours to Adepticon, but like this is just what it is. I don't know how windy your roads are. I've heard they wind and twist and do weird stuff because you have
Oh yeah.
civilizations built on civilizations for your road infrastructure. But in Canada, it's one road. You go straight. It's divided highway. There's double lanes. You can pass people. Like you're fine.
Amazing.
Well, I think maybe it's worth talking about the Bad Moon events,
Yeah.
because that's the most sort of local thing to us that we would travel to, and it requires a bit of effort. It's not 13 hours, I'm afraid, Mass. It's probably 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But it feels like...
But even that feels long for us. We're like, oh, I've got to travel 45 minutes on the train. Flipping it.
Yeah, I thought Southampton was a bit of a trek, and that took us under 2 hours.
Yeah. That was a field trip, wasn't it? Yeah, Southampton.
I think people seem to travel for the big tournaments. So, like last year, LGT, there was a lot of guys who come down from Newcastle, which is good, probably 6 hours. So I think a few people travel, and I think for those really big tournaments, it's probably worth it because people do come from all over the country, so you get to meet lots of different people, and also there's usually a good crowd, and especially if you're interested in the competitive scene, that's when all the people who are like the biggest players really get stuck in. So stuff like LGT is probably a good one to travel for. We love playing the Bad Moon tournaments. They're a lot of fun, but it's just 10 people and it's quite casual. So you'd obviously be welcome, but might not be worth the trip from Cornwall just for one Saturday of that.
Josh, you went to UKGE.
Sorry, gentlemen. How far is Cornwall to the Bad Moon event? Like, what's your travel
Probably
time?
4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, something like that. Because it's so interesting you say about long, windy roads. If you go to Cornwall, once you pass like Exeter, which is in Devon, it's the next county over from Cornwall, it's essentially one road that goes into Cornwall. And it's just like, if it's full of traffic, it's full of traffic because it's quite a common holiday destination. So if you're trying to travel over the summer, that might be a bit of an issue. But I think even then, it's like, because of the way the island is shaped, that like Cornwall is actually surprisingly far away. Like you just keep driving, you're like, oh man, I've still got like an hour left. And so I think 5, I guess, would be what you'd expect
5,
for that. 5 hours into London, and then maybe half an hour from whichever train station.
Is it
parts outside?
Is it on the southwest tip of the island?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
wow.
it. And I know that you say Devon is the next county along, but just so as not to offend our 9th biggest listener, Cornwall is not a county, it's a douchey.
Oh, okay. My bad. My bad.
What's
My
the
bad.
difference?
As people
Obviously.
from Cornwall, it's a big deal.
Well, there's quite a big move for independence in Cornwall as well, isn't there? I think you see people with the little the black and white flags, and I think there's a small contingency of people who want it to be independent.
Yeah, it'll be the like third one. It'll be like Scotland goes first, then Wales, and then Cornwall will be like, trying to leave as well.
Oh dear.
I like as you zoom out of the United Kingdoms, the roads that run from Exeter and London and Birmingham, and Liverpool, barely penetrate what is classified as Wales on the map. It's like, you lose all major highways. Okay.
There's no, we call them motorways here, our kind of big fast roads. There's none of them in Wales. So when you get to Wales, it's all just like pretty much single lane, but a couple of double lane, just windy roads.
Yeah.
So I know when I've driven there before, like you will do like 3/4 of the distance on nice straight roads in England, and then you'll get to Wales and you'll spend more than half your time just winding up and down these small roads. It's
Sounds brutal.
yeah, it's pretty horrible, but beautiful views if you enjoy driving.
Oh,
Yeah, I got
Really
really,
nice roads.
happy memories of being in Wales. I once stayed in the same hotel as Time Team.
the time team, amazing. Oh, sorry, we're just bringing out all the UK references for Matt's today.
It's okay. I found the island of man with Castletown.
Yes, indeed.
Well, there you go. Well, I hope we meet our 9th biggest fan at one of the big tournaments.
Yeah,
LGT.
Great to meet you, Matt. And thank you for sending in your question. I hope we've vaguely answered what you wanted. But yeah, I think it'd be great to start chatting about the 100 Kingdoms. I mean, Mass, we have brought you along. Thank you so much for coming, mate. It's really, really great to actually finally meet you and not just chat over Discord, but have an actual conversation. So that's pretty good. Obviously, you are you have outranked me as the superior 100 Kingdoms player. So we will be referring to your wisdom. But it's just a couple things that I thought would be good to chat about, because I think, 100 Kingdoms was the first faction, along with the Spires, that was released by Parabellum. It's been through all sorts of rule changes, all sorts of iterations, and I think it's, newest factions like City States and Sorcerer Kings have kind of been made with 2.0 in mind, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I think older factions, like even like Dwagon stuff, will be affected by kind of like, I don't know, like a rules bloat, or maybe a sort of not that, maybe a little less optimization, I don't know. But yeah, I thought it would be cool to just have a kind of like high level look at how the faction plays, and some stuff about that. So yeah, Mas, first of all, it'd be great to know, why did you start playing 100 Kingdoms?
Okay, well, first off, thank you for having me on. It's great to be here. It's great to meet Josh, not Josh. And also, at some point I was going to send in a listener question, and it was going to be, what is not Josh's actual name? Because every time I listen to your podcast, I don't think it's ever stated. He's always addressed as not Josh. So does he have a name?
It's a secret. Well, I think that if we told you, we'd have to kill you. So, I think we'll leave it at that and move on.
The greatest navy in the world versus a bunch of snow-covered Neanderthals. I think I'll win.
Yeah, just try and follow us into the seas, mate.
Yeah. I don't have to go out. You have to come into the wasteland that is my country. He'll be like, why is it so flat? Why have you not developed any of this? It's like, yeah, that's right.
Oh man,
I think what we've just done is reveal the length of time it takes us between recording an episode and having it released, because we have answered that listener question in a previous podcast episode that just hasn't yet been published.
Have we actually?
Yeah, we have.
Oh, that's amazing.
Do I have to keep listening? It's like next time on Joshing Around in Aya, find out what not Josh's real name is.
Yeah. Oh, we totally did, didn't we? Because you messaged me, Mas, and said this is my listener question, and we definitely answered it. But yeah, it's the only question that we haven't yet.
Yeah, and we had a whole conversation about how you're Mas and Cass, and your names rhyme, and that's quite nice. But your name is my name backwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Omisam. There we go. There's my full name.
Great. That's his name, Omisam.
Omisam. I mean, that is me from now on. Let's do it.
We are Omisamming around in air.
God. Sounds like a Bushido warrior.
Yeah.
I've already derailed the episode.
I mean, it's impressive, but I love it, and I'm here for it.
Yeah. So I believe the original question is how I got into the game. COVID happened. I was a huge War Machine player. I went to not a huge amount of events in Canada, as I've kind of explained. Like, you have to drive or travel very far to go anywhere, and I lived in the middle of the country, what was kind of crap for traveling, to really be honest about it. And I worked a lot more, couldn't get time off for stuff. It was just a whole, just how life goes on. And so I'd play in events that were either local, close by that I could travel to. Furthest one I think I went to for a War Machine event was about 9 hours away, and that was a team tournament. But I played a lot of War Machine, and the great thing about my local meta for War Machine that was everyone wanted to get better. So people were always trying to find new tech, trying to learn, trying to advance, and like there were some high skilled players who participated and went to large events like I think it used to be called War Machine Weekend, but it's called something else now. I can't remember what it is, but and then they would bring back that experience and we'd learn. At one point, I met Rebecca Banky in Toronto. I was there for work. We played a game. I talked to them and was like, hey, do you want to come to my town? I will fly you out and we can spend a weekend playing. And my entire meta showed up, and for a weekend we played Rebecca Banky, who like played a billion games into a bunch of people. But like, I was a huge War Machine player. The problem was COVID hit and the meta basically died out over the next 2 years as we were in lockdown. Eventually, as things opened up, I went to the local gaming store and I saw Conquest on the shelves, and there was Spires, Nords, Dweg, and I think Wadroon was just coming out at the time. And I saw 100K. The House of Knights looked cool. The crossbows looked cool, and the Steel Legion looked cool.
Nice.
Nords looked cool, but I was like, I like knights. I've always liked the medieval fantasy. That's always drawn me into games, into stuff I play. Like, as a kid, my dad was like, hey, you want some Warcraft 3? And I'm like, I'm 8. Ah! And so, man, I played that up until my...
That was verbatim, was it?
Oh, it was like phenomenal. My brain's exploding. My little neurons are firing. But I played human. I really liked human. And, you know, like, it's... I always had that kind of, like, connection.
Yeah.
So, and...
Brave humans with sticks.
Yeah, Brave Humans with Sticks. Like, shout out to Hannah and her blog. But it's kind of like humans, like the everyman faction. Like, you are nothing versus these monstrosities of the world. I just really like their aesthetic. I played a demo game, bought a 2-player, like the Spires 100K box, split it with a guy, bought the 1-player starter, and then bought some Steel Legion, went from there, built the things I wanted to play. In 1.51, that's when I started to play. I liked that I was allowed to bring everything that I wanted. Played for like a year.
Yeah.
And then I started the podcast, the YouTube channel. I take a lot of experience from playing about 8 years of War Machine in advance. What people, there's people who are like, oh, it's very competitive. Oh, it's like, it's tough. It's like, yeah, but there's a lot there in War Machine. And in Conquest, as I played more, there's various walls I've hit that are like, is there more to this game? And it's kind of like I'm like butting my head up against this wall, and eventually I break through, and I'm like, there's more into this game. It goes deeper and deeper, and like how you do things, so it scratches the same itch War Machine was giving to me, right. and so I just kind of kept playing it, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I think it's fascinating hearing that, because I guess people play war games for different reasons, right? Some people are like, look, I just love painting the minis, but I just also want to, I like spending the time with mates, playing games, whatever, casual play. There are some people who just like enjoy playing the game, maybe aren't too fussed about, painting or other aspects of the hobby, but just enjoy playing it for the fun of it and the social aspect. And then there's like, I guess, people who are like super into the meta and are trying to like, see how much you can get out of the faction. And I guess all of us can tap into different parts of those things at once. But yeah, it seems like from what I've seen on your sort of YouTube and your podcasts and stuff, that you're definitely more like the other Josh here, who likes to see how much you can get out of a faction, how good you can build a list, and kind of go from there.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
So I kind of take my list design from how I play Magic the Gathering. Okay, like, there's like Johnny, Tim, and Spike. There's like the 3, I don't know what the hell they call them anymore. It's been a while since I've had to look at this. But it's like the 3 types of players. There's the player that's like just plays fun decks. There's a player that's like kind of good, playing some good stuff, but also having fun. And then there's like the hardcore player. I would probably classify myself between like the guy who's trying to be good but having fun, but also the Spike who is trying to do the best, but also I'm a tribal Spike, so I like to build thematic lists that are good. So I know I've listened to your guys' podcast, like all the episodes that are currently released, and
a true fan.
Fan.
Does that mean you're our number one biggest fan?
Yeah. 9, 8, 7, and so on.
I think you beat them all, Mess.
But it's always surprising to me when you guys mentioned the Horse Lord list, and it was, what got even weirder was when I was at Adepticon and I was approached and be like, you're the reason why there's like all this horses from all the 100K, and I'm like, you're welcome. Yeah. Like, it's just,
I personally blame you for the Ashen Dawn.
Yeah, everyone's blaming you for the Ashen Dawn, and I'm like, I didn't do shit. I just show people like, hey, it works. This is how you play it. I have, I think my latest battle report shows how you actually kill Ashen Dawn, because I let my buddy play my Horse Lord list, and I played a fast Dweg into it, and I surrounded a unit and just bludgeoned it to death until it died. And it was like, that's how you do it. There is your example if you're having trouble into Ashen Dawn. I'm assuming we're going to get into, because like I've said how to deal with them multiple times, but like iteration and consistency helps people retain those skills and knowledge and solidifies them. So it's like also a factor of learning. If you want to get good at something, you got to learn how to do it. So this gets into a lot of crap, but basically it's like how much effort you want to put into things, and so on. But I noticed for myself, I like to build a theme of a list. It has an identity of something. Like I know Ben was like, here, try all these spikes, and I called it Hedgehog, and then he came out with Double Gilded Legion and Household Guard, and I called it Heavy Hog. Like, that is a themed list at this point. That has an archetype, that has a name that people will see and know what it does. I like that stuff. It's very easy for myself and other people to be like, if you call it a thing and it has like an archetype and it follows this, like Hannah's Goblin list, where it was just, it's basically a shooting list that tries to out scenario play everybody and is very good on non-kill point scenarios. That's changed since the changes to scoring, but it's still an idea in there. And I remember when I released Goblin, and played it and showed it off in the wider world, saw it from Hannah through the battle reports. Dweg players were messaging me trying to figure out how to Dwegify Goblin. And I'm like, I don't think you can. You're too expensive for what you do.
Yeah, you just cost too much.
Yeah, stop being so goddamn expensive, Dweg. But yeah,
that's what you get for having 5 wounds on everything.
you get stats. So yeah, like we're on a video call. I assume the listeners aren't going to be able to see this, but like Josh in front of me, Josh number 3, as we've clarified before the recording.
Josh number 3.
So we got main Josh, or not main. We got Josh. Then we got Josh.
No, I'm okay with main Josh.
No. You got to earn that.
I strongly disagree with
Josh,
on that one.
Josh 3, and then not Josh. So.
There's no Josh 2, but I love it.
But
you can be Josh 2 if you really want.
Yeah, you can slide yourself in there. But yeah, like if that's the kind of list you're going for, like I like themes. I like to have an identity in the list. I like it to be something. Like,
okay,
if I really want to look and like milk it to its fundamental components and build like the super optimal list, yeah, I can do that. But I've done that before in War Machine, and it wasn't fun because I'm grinding and winning, but I'm making micro adjustments that improve my play. I want to play and explore something. I want to find its fundamental components, show it off, have some fun with it, move on to the next thing. So it's tough for me to play something. Like, after Adepticon, I did not want to play horses anymore because I had played a variant of that horse list a year up to Adepticon.
Sure. So, just kind of moving on from that, obviously, we've got 100 Kingdoms, we've got various different thematic lists that you've been playing. I really like kind of how you're going, even on a naming front, right, I'm naming it this thing, so I'm going to try and make this thing work. And rather than kind of make micro adjustments everywhere, I'm just going to see if this thematic thing works, and then we go from there. So, I guess just kind of to pull us out a bit, if someone's considering, do I play 100 Kingdoms? Do I play, whatever other faction? What would be the reason, just purely from like a gameplay front? Like, yeah, okay, you like the horses, you like the infantry, you think they're really cool. What do you like? Why are you playing them? What do you want to get out of them? Are you trying to be really fast? Are you trying to be really strong? Like, what sort of things are you looking for?
So you're asking me, what you want me to sell you on the strengths of the faction and why you should play Hunt? Okay, so
yeah, man,
you come up to me, you're like, hey man, you seem to play 100K. I want to buy some 100K. What's good about this? And I go, let me tell you. And I put my arm around you. I bring you over to the wall of product, and I say, you see Wadroon here? They're gonna pop off and do all this crazy stuff. You see Dweg, they're gonna act like a castle and tank a bunch of shit. Old Dominion's going to do something roughly the same. Spires is going to shoot you and do some bullshit. Nords is going to run at you fast. this is what the strength of 100k is. You can do all that.
Mm.
You're not going to do it well, but you have the option of doing all, in quotes, what the other factions can do. You're not gonna go to the level of Dweg Castle that Dweg can, but you can castle effectively. You're not gonna spam out stuff and cover the early game like Nords, but you can do that effectively. Like, the power of 100k literally comes from its list building, and that's where 90% of its strength comes from. Is, did you build a list that is I don't want to say optimal. Well, yeah, like an optimal list, but it has synergies within itself and supports itself. And then, did you bring the tools into that list during the list building process that deal with the problems you are going to be facing when you face your opponent? And if the answer is yes, does it synergize? Is it optimal? And do you have the proper tools? You're in a very good spot. And then the last 10% is really playing the list, like, for the faction strength. Like, we can get a player skill and everything because all that crap, but 100k is really built on the back of the list building in the game. You need to build a good list. You need to experiment with a lot of stuff. That, like, it's kind of why one of the reasons of 100k why stuff is so cheap.
Yeah. Super cheap.
It's cheap. It's not good, but it's very spammable. You can just do quantity over quality. It's mass produced. Hey,
Oh yeah, I was gonna...
yeah, I know. I was trying to avoid that one, but that's one of the strengths of 100k. Then you can pair that. Pair that quality aspects of 100k with the elite aspects of the orders, Steel Legion, Gilded Legion, and then you have this list that is optimal and can deal with stuff. And if you're missing tools, you then do that last 10% of the faction strength on the table, because 100k isn't doing anything interesting on the table. To be honest, like, the table tricks are very little compared to a lot of other factions. Like, Dwaghome's got a ton of wizards, Old Dominion's snorting dark power pool tokens up their butt, Wadroon's chanting all the time. Like, everyone else has their, like, gimmick.
Is that taken straight from the law book?
Yeah. Everyone has their gimmick. You're just a brave human with a stick. Get over there and kill that dinosaur, because if you don't, everyone else is gonna die.
Yep.
So, Mas, I'd love to hear the way that you've talked about that is really about the 100 Kingdoms' ability to be so flexible. It can lean into sort of whatever thematic niche you're just in the mood for. So I suppose what that means is, if I present you with any list from any faction, you can develop a unique 100 Kingdoms list that will be able to withstand that, and not every faction is able to do that. If you come out with a shooty list, Old Dominion's got very little to answer it with.
Yeah.
And so 100 Kingdoms sort of can cope with anything. Does that mean that the right approach to take when you're playing competitively in a tournament is to observe the meta and build a really niche, meta-aware list that sort of leans into everybody else's weaknesses? Or do you go for a list which has got a little bit of absolutely everything so you can cope with whatever is presented to you?
So this gets into the silver bullet. I don't know if you guys understand silver bullet. Probably some listeners don't, so I'm just going to explain anyway.
What, the Ashen Dawn?
Yeah, well, we'll get to Ashen Dawn because this comes up with the next problem. The silver bullet is, you will build a list that does one thing incredibly well, and when you get paired into that matchup, you will have a 90% win rate. However, you're not going to be good into all the other stuff.
Okay.
So I tell people not to build silver bullets. You have a ton of tools in 100k. Grabbing a little bit of those tools to supplement what your list is doing and why you're grabbing them. Like, if you're in a meta and they're playing like a ton of brutes and monsters and stuff, yeah, grab some Hunter Cadre. Shoot them to death. Like, veteran some Hunter Cadre, grab 4 or 5 stands, unload into some brutes and kill them. Really effective, really well. But if you're going into stuff where people are swapping around a lot, they're trying different things, maybe you don't play every week, maybe you don't get a ton of games, so you don't understand your own local meta. Or if you're looking at a larger meta, like I know some people are looking towards Worlds, some people are looking to high-end conventions. Like one of the positives and negatives of Conquest is there is not a defined meta in Conquest yet. I don't think we're going to see a defined meta for another 2 to 3 years, maybe 4, until people start improving their own internal skill to get to that point that lists start mattering. Like,
okay.
So I'm using War Machine, like Mark II War Machine. It got boiled down to Lilith 2, Denny 2, Haley 2, Aphixius 2. Like there were these power casters, and if you were going to a major tournament, you needed to have something to deal with those. I don't really see that in Conquest right now. Like if you're looking at that, the big movie man would be, if those are some serious problems for you, would be the 100k Ashen Dawn, Old Dominion, Carl or Ben playing Spires. Yeah, I know it's very specific, but like you need to have a solution because Carl will be playing you for second.
Yeah.
So like it's starting to grow, but there are ways to deal and handle these things. So I really say to people, don't go for a silver bullet. Like you're hurting yourself for everything else. If you're playing a one-off game and you like really want to win, sure, do it. But like, does that give you anything? Did you learn anything there? You learned how to build a silver bullet to deal with one problem.
I think that's a really good point. Like we experienced that a few weeks ago because Josh built a list with loads of shooting, which really hurt my Old Dominion. They hated all that little plink damage. But then he was like, oh, great, it's a really strong list. And then he played against Sam with all his healing as Spires, and they're like, we love all this plink damage, just do it and then we'll heal it all straight back up. And she had one list that went from a really dominant match against me to getting completely destroyed against Sam, and it can feel quite, you've got something that's a bit too niche. And I do think 100 Kingdoms is very good for that, having lots of different skill sets and trying to build a bit of a kind of Swiss Army knife of an army that can adapt and face lots of different stuff. So I think that's it is a real good strength of the faction.
Yeah. So I would recommend to a lot of players to build a more generalist combined arms. You have some of the cheapest, most effective shooting with the Merc crossbow. Like praise be the holy crossbow, because
we love them.
Man, this thing gets so much shit done.
Yeah, they are the everyman, but the absolute winners of the faction.
It really is. Like I have to paint more just to show my love and reverence towards this.
Just have like 20 stands of them, just for the sake of it. Like you're not even going to run it in a list, but just so you can look at them and smile.
No, I have ran that list. I have ran the line.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
So there's 2 battle reports. I think it's the first time I ever played Carl. He had to play the line, and then I played it into a local who was playing 100k, and Carl hated it because it's a puzzle you have to solve, and you have to be very good at the game to break it down. It'd probably like kill 80% of players. My local did very well into it, did what you needed to do to succeed, but then, I still took it, like I still won the game because it's just so much gun. The list doesn't work anymore due to the changes in scoring, so thank God we do not have to, because I made the line, but I never was like, I was hoping never, and no one else would play it into like a local or take it to a major event, because I'm like, this will probably destroy 80% of the player base in a large event because they just don't know how to deal with 163 shots.
Sorry, Sam, I think I spoke over you. Were you about to ask something?
I was going to say that something that you'd mentioned, Mass, was about how it's relatively easy to play 100 Kingdoms. You didn't use that word, but there's less janky stuff going on the table with 100 Kingdoms than there is with, your Spires, with your Ferromancies or your Wadru Chanting and all of this. So I suppose my question then is, do you think 100 Kingdoms is a good faction for people who feel less confident in their sort of strategic decision making because you just look at the table and do what feels right? Or is it more challenging because, I don't know, with Dwego, and then you are just playing on defense, basically, like stick yourself in a strong fortified position. So you have to make more decisions on 100 Kingdoms.
So I'm going to say that's in the middle of those two sides of the question. Like, it's not super easy. You kind of just like throw stuff on the table and go, but it's also not super hard where you have to break down every step. You have to organize your command stack like Spires. You got to think about where your dark power pool is. You got to figure out where your chanting is coming from and what's still alive to effectively chant on the things you need to do stuff like Wadroon. It kind of sits in the middle because if you build a list, because a lot of your faction power comes from the list, and you just play it out and you make appropriate responses to your opponent as they deploy stuff, or you deploy stuff to pull your opponent and kind of like threaten them out. Like, let's say I throw up a big block of Gilded Legion. I'm trying to bait out some Minotaur Thyrians to hit me, but I have a Death Star Hellsoul Knight regiment on the side waiting to like Minotaurs hit the Gilded Legion. Gilded Legion reduce the damage, take some damage. They have my opponent forgets of Armor Dominion. Hellsoul Knight Brick slams in, kills the Minotaur, clear up the Gilded. Gilded move forward, get on his own. Like step. Like it's kind of more like step. It plays closer to Dwagholm, but Dwagholm want to play in a tight formation, what is described as the castle. You don't want to move away from each other. You want to kind of advance up in a big block with all your regiments. So for a newer player, 100k is a good faction to get into because it is less load on your brain. The most thinking you have to do is how you're going to design your list, what you can do sitting on your couch, watching TV, taking a dump, having coffee, whatever wherever you do it.
No judgment.
Yeah, waiting for that one. While other factions, you build your list, but then you gotta like know how to play it properly. Like Nords is kind of not an issue, but like something where you have to actively look at the table. Like you have your list, you can build it well, but you got to be actively looking at the table, looking for early scoring opportunity, looking to bait your opponent, looking to use your average higher speed than a lot of things, the ability to punch upwards to kind of deal with threats and take them out before they become an issue, stuff like that. While 100k, you're kind of like, it's less than that, but more than Dwagholm of just like walking up in a big formation to be like, we have taken over 2/3 of the board. Yeah. Come at me, bro. Like, so does that answer your question of like the amount of like less? It's not less thinking, but like the amount of thinking you have to do when you apply it to the table, because it is kind of a new player friendly faction because a lot of the work is in the list building, and then you learn the fundamentals of the game because you're not doing weird stuff. You're not accounting for Spires, Biomancy, or Ferromancies to manipulate your command stack. You're not worried about chanting to get that bonus to be an 11 out of 10 instead of an 8 out of 10 regiment. You're not worried about dark power pool where you have to like figure out how to sacrifice stuff and generate points to then get your heavies to hit up harder so that they're not in tier 1 actually getting into fights, because that's a terrible position. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff. You don't have to worry about any of the additional steps or gimmicks the other factions have. Like I'm calling them, they're how the factions play. I'm just calling them gimmicks because it's kind of what they are. But like they do good things for those faction and our faction identities.
Yeah, I think I think that hits the nail on the head. I mean, I know it wasn't the question and answer, but like I think, yeah, it just basically means that I said it on the first podcast we ever did. And I was like, I like playing 100 Kingdoms because a dum-dum like me can play along and I don't feel like I'm just getting steamrolled every game. And so I think it's nice because this is something I heard you say on a podcast before. I can't remember which one it was, but it was essentially like, you said something to the effect of 100 Kingdoms is great, especially for new players, because it teaches you the basic mechanics of the game before you have to start thinking about chanting or, Spires, Ferromancies and swapping cards and all of that stuff. I mean, me and Sam did a game where we swapped once, and it was just like there was so much extra stuff I was having to think about that I felt like I just was making terrible decisions on like just basic stuff like positioning and like what kind of matchups I wanted each unit to go up against. And so I think, yeah, like 100 Kingdoms just allows you to like kind of, I guess, get good at sort of playing Conquest before you start thinking about what other stuff you can do.
That's one of the big things I like about it. Like it's very much a fundamentals faction, but it's not a restricted fundamentals faction. Like I find Dwagholm a little bit of a restricted fundamentals faction just because their stats are so good. They got very strong wizards. Like if someone said, I'm a new player and I want to be able to have as much mistakes as possible to learn the game, I would say, I'd walk up to you, put my arm around you, walk you over to the wall of product, and I'd say, you are a dwarf, here you go buy that. And that's where I see like one of like that's a faction strength for Dwagholm. It might not sound like one, but like if you learn and develop your fundamentals and your castling ability with some more defensive tech, which is like usually a lot of new player friendly because you can just take a hit and not worry that your thing's gonna die. Like, there'll be a stand left, it can fight back, it can do some stuff. Sometimes they just take a hit and you just shit ticket your way out of that and you're like, oh, sucks to be you. But 100K has a bit of that in some other regiments, but also some, like, Conquest is a very killy game. Things will just explode and die. If they're even looked at funny, but a lot of the time you can still play a game and learn with 100K and have the ability to wiggle yourself in a different aspect of play because their faction is kind of classified as the jack of all trades faction with the cavalry. Like that's kind of how I look at them, is that they are the jack of all trades faction with cavalry, and you are the cavalry faction and the jack of all trades faction. That's why like 100K players put so much emphasis on their horse. Like there's, I played infantry lists, I played gun lists, I played stuff. I played wizards, and I'm a notoriously bad wizard. I fucking can't cast a spell to save my life. There's one game where you'll see in the middle of the game, I swapped from my green dice to pink dice. They were so bad.
Was there a game you threw your dice in the bin or something?
Yeah, I totally threw them in the bin. I couldn't take it anymore. The Theist Priest failed 3 times in a row, and I'm like, you just need 2 fucking successes.
No, it gets like that, man. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm notoriously bad as a Dwagholm player. Whenever I have tempered sorcerers start trying to do stuff, they just fail all the time, and I'm like, oh well, this is just my life at this point.
Bless you. Yeah,
but yeah, it's 100K allows you to do a lot of different things and allows you to move into a lot of different aspects of the game and explore kind of every aspect of the game and play style while remaining in one faction. What is one of his strengths? So, do you want to get into the final, if we like roll this back probably like 15-20 minutes? You're asking me about play styles, you're asking me about silver bullets, and then generalists, combined arm lists. Let's get into sweepers.
Sweepers, okay.
What do you think a sweeper is?
Sure, just to watch time a little bit. Can we do maybe 5-10 minutes on that, and then we'll wrap it up? That sound good?
Yeah,
mate. Right. Tell me what a sweep.
I was going to ask you guys to guess.
So I guess, is it shooting? Is it something to do with shooting?
No.
You're kind of
Josh,
you're
number
sweeping
3,
across the board.
Sweepers. I don't know. I'm gonna go something with speed. It's got to be. No. Is it trying to get something up the board and then like come across?
Not bad. Not bad, but it is not that. Not Josh, you're up.
I mean, I'm surprised neither of you have mentioned it. We're British, and so, national sport. We're about to have the Euros.
Oh, yes.
So, I'm really in a football mood. And in football, then the sweeper is the last defender whose job is just to sort of hang around and just pick up anything that nobody else has managed to. So within the context of Conquest, that feels like sort of late game unit that is just a little bit flexible, can dive in and finish off what should have been finished off a little bit earlier.
All right, if it's not that, I'm going to be well disappointed.
Well, I think, okay, so not Josh and Josh 3 kind of have aspects of it. But what a sweeper is, and this terminology comes from tournament play Pokemon. When you have your 6 Pokemon, you have what's called a sweeper and a pivot. The sweeper is designed to basically win 90% of its matchups, while a pivot is designed to be about a 50 to 70 on those matchups that the sweeper cannot win. And so if you design a sweeper list, you are going to be very focused in one aspect that can kind of just punch through, pound through stuff, wipe it out, score the zones, take it over, and it's more of a domination style of play. This is where we get into the Ashen Dawn, because an Ashen Dawn
I thought this
list
was going to be it.
is a sweeper style list.
Okay.
There's various versions of this. I know Huckleberry Smash, a wonderful guy, met him, he's super great. Developed 3 sealed temple, 3, I think it's 2, 4, 1, 3 of Ashen Dawn, and then Chapter Mage and a Merc Crossbow healing them. Can't do this anymore, but this is like the list, but we're not going to talk about additional list design and all that crap, but this is the idea. And I know for myself, I played Horse Lord. Well, there's double Mounted Squires, double Household Knights, double Sealed Temple, 2 5 blocks of Ashen Dawn. The workhorses in those lists literally are the Ashen Dawn, and they will hit something, kill it, move on. The rest of your list in there is designed to stay in the back, score those zones, get in the way, protect Ashen Dawn. Your Ashen Dawn are there to do the heavy lifting of the list and kill your opponent's stuff that are coming into you. Get on, go over the lip of a zone, get hit, defend, grind it out. You are being, I don't want to say it's like an aggressive style list, but you have a domination style of play where you are being like, can you deal with 10 Ashen Dawn? Can you deal with 11 Ashen Dawn? Can you deal with 12 Ashen Dawn? And if your opponent's answer is no, you win. That is a sweeper. Okay. I'm drinking, so I'm getting real excited. So let's go.
I mean, it's great. Okay.
Yeah, get the excitement rolling.
I mean, it's interesting for me. You talk about the Ashen Dawn. Sorry, just I won't get us too sidetracked, but it seems like the Ashen Dawn have been nerfed because people were running 13 Ashen Dawn in a list, and like when you run them as MSUs, it seems a little bit less kind of, oh, why do they need a? As an MSU, they're definitely strong, but they're not like winning you the game by any means. You've still got plenty of other stuff.
So if someone shows up with 1 unit of Ashen Dawn, I don't give a shit. I know as a player how to deal with a unit. Someone shows up with 2 units of Ashen Dawn, okay, we're going to have some fun, but I know how to deal with both of them. If someone shows up with 3 Ashen Dawn, I can handle 2. I must now use the rest of my list to occupy the 3rd and slow it down enough to the point where it won't do anything. I have to make it irrelevant is basically to win the game. Because I'm trying to when you're faced with an Ashen Dawn list, your goal is to kill 1 unit. Because Ashen Dawn have the problem is that they can only be one place on the board, and they can only kill 1 thing a turn. And if you're putting additional stands on them, so they're like a 5 block, you kind of want to force your opponent to, if you see that, you want to kill everything else around a zone and make it so your opponent wants to commit the Ashen Dawn, what is a 500-point regiment almost at this point, to score a zone. And you just leave. You're like, go ahead. And you kill everything else around the Ashen Dawn. You say, you know what, you're killing a thing a turn. You've accepted that as an opponent player into them. You score everything else. You leave them tied up on a zone, and then once there's only let's say there's 2 Ashen Dawn left, you gang up on 1 and murder it. It can only bless off 1 thing. It doesn't bless off shooting. It doesn't bless off magic. AP magic is its worst nightmare. AP shooting is pretty bad for it. Smite's pretty bad for it. There's different ways and stuff that you can build in and deal with Ashen Dawn. Each faction has some stuff. Like Dwaghelm has Unmake Armor, Spires has their Induced Lethargy, Old Dominion Cleave 3.
I was gonna say, Old Dominion's got a lot of tools.
So like your faction has tools to deal with these. What you're trying to do is you're trying to bait out the bless, and then you're trying to do a follow-up hit. So it's a minimum of 2 melee regiments, probably going to be 3, to kill a 5 block of Ashen Dawn to break and shatter them. While if you have guns, you just start plinking at them. You be like, come at me, bro. I'm going to tie you up on the zone. We're going to plink at you. We're going to plink at you. And, eventually they're sort of going to lose stuff. You'll kill a standoff or 2, especially if you have some AP guns. You have some deadly shotguns. You got some of that stuff. And you'll be successful in dealing with them. Yeah. But the Ashen Dawn give 100k the sweeper mentality and the ability to play a sweeper style list. What is brutal to play against if you don't know how to deal with it and don't have the tools to deal with it.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you. That's actually really helpful, because I feel like I saw a lot of those lists at Adepticon. A lot of kind of big blocks of Ashen Dawn, and obviously that concept of sweeping. That's really helpful. And so before we just finish up, I think my last question to you, Mass, will be, how many more times do you think Parabellum will nerf the Ashen Dawn?
1, I think so. For locked in 1 more nerf.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 more nerf. I don't see possibly 3 more nerf.
Okay, just 2. Okay, all right.
Yeah. Well, so far we're like we could talk about the stats and dive into all that stuff. And I know before we've started this podcast, you're like, don't go into stats. Don't do it. We're not that good. Yeah, because me, I'm all about the stats and analytical breakdown and detailed examples and blah, 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 blah.
Right, yeah.
But, they, even with their most recent nerf, nothing has changed.
No, it's just got a little, you can bring 1 less banner or something, and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Ashen Dawn, if you are a 100k player and you're listening to this and you're like, Ashen Dawn went up to 250 and now they're 90 points and this is awful, and nothing has changed. You're good. You're A-okay. You're still a god amongst mortals. Play Ashen Dawn.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally me, but yeah. Mate, well, Mass, thank you so much for chatting to us about 100 Kingdoms. And thank you so much for coming on the pods. I know you've got another one to do. But
don't worry.
Thank you.
We have more boot.
Yeah, we still got more of that boot to get through, so I look forward to it. But yeah, cool. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to send in any listener questions, if you have any thoughts, any questions, then feel free to send us an email at joshingaroundinair@gmail.com. Almost messed it up. joshingaroundinair@gmail.com. Please send in your questions. But otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.
See you next time.
Bye.
Prepping the board, round our hands, campaigns we lay. Fantasy worlds at our command, legends slay and sway. Roll for the fate, hold your breath, stories in a spin. Armored might, epic quests, in this guild we can. Passionate craft, sessions advance, camaraderie don't play. Paint, clash, lores expanse, victories in our DNA. Epic battles, roll the dice, prove what we say. Joshing around, in it for life, conquer every campaign.
Rolling dice, clash we fight, tabletop nights we play. Russian hand we craft, mighty standing ranks. Conquest kings we strategize, let armies through the fray. Joshing boys, they don't toy, they conquer game and day. Lads on a mission with their paint steady glistening. Mini warriors in position, table legends, they ain't just wishing. When it comes to the last argument, trust we're winning. Models lined up with precision, joshing around, we're never just sitting. Setting up scenes, rolling in 6s. Our passionate thickens, our hobby we living. Ayy, troop in the zone, detail on the figures, we finesse it. Fixated grips on the paintbrush, steady as we bless it. On tablet tops we reign, the last kings arguing. Dominating realms, fantasy maps, we be charting them, Hey, point by point crafting tales, never miss, ain't no blunder, Game masters of our own legend, rolling thunder, Round the table, nights of play, we got the scene locked with every campaign in the minis. Yeah, we stay stocked,